Hello and welcome to the Salty Scout Food and Travel Podcast. I'm Jane and I live, travel and cook aboard a 45-foot sailboat named Scout with my husband James. I'm looking forward to sharing the delicious food and drink experiences that make each sailing destination unique. Since setting sail from the US East Coast in 2022, I've been on a culinary adventure with a loose plan and a passion to explore and taste my way through the world's local cuisines. Whether you're an avid adventurer, fellow sailor, armchair traveller or food enthusiast, join me on this journey as I discover local foods, drinks, recipes, cooking techniques and restaurants as diverse as the places we visit. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Salty Scout. This is the 6th episode of my first season. I'm glad to have you on board Scout today. So where are we now at the time of recording? Well, Scout is anchored in an archipelago called Las Perlas, which is on the Pacific side of Panama, about 35 miles southeast of Panama City, which then of course means that we have, since my last episode, transited the Panama Canal. Woohoo! So yes, we successfully transited the canal about 2 weeks ago. On the first day, Scout was raised about 88 feet through 3 separate canal chambers, what is the Caribbean side, up to a lake called Lake Gatton. And when Scout stayed there overnight on a mooring ball, and then the next day, on the second day, we were lowered back down to sea level via another 3 chambers to the Pacific Ocean. So that was a wonderful experience, and it's such an incredible feat of engineering that goes back over 100 years ago. Pretty amazing, really. It's a very different experience being here in the Pacific. It's maybe the water and the weather, it's all very different to what we've been experiencing certainly with the trade winds in the Caribbean. With the Panama Canal behind us, we're looking forward to what we're going to do next, and we are preparing Scout for a 6 to 7 night passage, we think will be, to the Galapagos Islands. So we got quite a few bits of paperwork to do ahead of that, taking your boat into what is a marine reserve. So understandably, there's a lot of planning, such as making sure the hull is squeaky clean, etc. So in today's episode, I'm going to reflect on a sail we made about a couple of months ago to a place called the Gunayala, or the San Blas as it used to be called. It's an archipelago and a thin strip of mainland off the north coast of Panama and about 60 miles to the east of the Panama Canal. And of the 365 low-lying islands that exist, 49 of them are inhabited by the 32,000 indigenous Guna people. They live in these semi-autonomous reservations where their customs are protected under the country of Panama. So the Guna are famous for these molars, which means clothing in Guna language, and it's a colourful applique panel of cloth that forms part of the female Guna's blouse at the front. But they've also found a big following with tourists such as ourselves. I bought one, of course, and from a known master molar maker called Venancio. So the economy of the Gunayala is mainly artisanal fishing, some tourism of course, and molar production for the tourists, as well as traditional agriculture such as the ubiquitous coconut you see everywhere on the islands and the plantains on the mainland. Before I talk more about the local foods, I'd like to back up a little. So on arrival into the San Blas, or the Gunayala, we were required to clear in with immigration as we were arriving into a new country, which is technically Panama. And it's on the western island of Porvenir in the San Blas, where we had anchored Scout. A local Guna father of 6 called Nestor came by with his wife in their wooden dugout canoe, looking to sell their molars and the offer of help. They were slight of build, with dark skin and a very peaceful demeanour. He unusually and very helpfully spoke English, whereas most Guna speak only Guna and some Spanish. And while we sipped on coconut water straight from the coconut that he had offered to us, he described the typical diet of the Gunayala. What follows is a recording of this description.
The Guna people eat the rice and the fish, plantain and the fish, and sometimes the potatoes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I have the rice and the coconut, but I have big food. I include the plantain, include the fish.
Plantain, yes.
Yeah, this is the guacho in Spanish.
Guacho, okay.
Guacho, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and you drink? What do you normally drink?
The drink is okay. The drink, the children drink the chocolate. The grandmother, the grandfather eating the coffee.
Oh, coffee.
Coffee all the time.
And you?
Coffee.
Oh, somebody's saying coffee.
Yeah, this is my son.
Yes. Yeah. And the coffee, is it grown in Panama?
Yes. Sometimes I have the friend, the Colombian guys taking coffee for me for the Colombian
Oh,
coffee.
from Colombia, yeah.
Pero en here es expenso
Yes,
y es small bags nothing.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, bueno, gracias.
yeah, de nada.
Thank you, Nesta, for this very insightful information. We certainly had the opportunity to buy some seafood, such as conch and lobster, and coconuts were plentiful everywhere, although, as we were advised by Nesta, only the Guna are allowed to harvest them. As well as rice for carbs, the Guna also eat a lot of what is called Kuna bread, which is basically a long, tapered white bread roll traditionally baked on a fire for that more unique flavour, or more often than not, in an oven these days. On the Gunayar island of Niadoop, I followed that distinctive smell of freshly baked bread down the main street to a small tienda or shop and was invited in by the baker Iselda. Iselda was dressed as most female Guna are dressed, and that's in a mola-covered blouse and these traditional weenies, which are these very colourful beaded strings wrapped tightly around the arms and legs. Guna women are usually quite reserved, but Iselda was very keen to show me her kitchen and to show how the bread was baked. She had a lineup of Kuna bread, fresh out of her oven, and you can see pictures of the bread and of Iselda on my Salty Scout Instagram account. So we bought several of her tasty Kuna bread fingers to eat with our locally caught triggerfish, thank you James, and we had that for dinner. The next local food I'd like to talk about is the coconut, and the San Blas is literally dripping with coconuts, with groves on most of the many islands. The Guna people have been trading coconuts since the 18th century, and the coconut was seen as a form of currency. As tempting as it is to innocently pick up or pluck a coconut from a palm tree and walk off with it, it probably wouldn't do you any favours with the grove or plantation owner. The green coconuts are great for rehydrating with coconut water in them, whereas the dark brown, more mature coconuts have less water and more flesh and milk. Once you've figured out how to break open the more mature coconut husk with the repeated banging in the same spot with a wooden rolling pin like I did, you are rewarded with a tasty and healthy snack, the coconut copra kernel, or meat as it's called. You can then prise open the copra from the husk shell using a spoon in my case. The coconut meat can be grated and added to water to make coconut milk, for example. One of the dishes I made while in the beautiful Coca Banderas Islands, which is on the eastern side of the San Blas, was a dish that many Guna also eat, and that's conch curry with coconut rice and fried plantains. So what is conch? Well, many people associate the conch and its decorative shell with tropical beaches and of a seashell horn wind instrument. The conch is basically a sea snail, which doesn't really sell it, I know, but it's actually very tasty and adaptable. Trust me. But you've just got to know how to prepare it before cooking it. I'd seen the conch curry dish or something similar, such as a stew, in other Caribbean countries like Jamaica and Grenada, where conch is also called lambi. Previously, though, I'd only ever eaten conch with conch fritters, which is a really tasty deep-fried ball of small conch chunks that is in seasoned batter that is found on many restaurant menus in the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. Now, on a mission to find out more about how to cook this sea snail, I bought a couple of conchs from the local fishermen, and they removed the conch meat by first smashing a hole in the spiral shell to break the suction, and then they pulled out the edible muscle part in the main opening of the shell for me to prepare. So after several rinses with water, I cut away and peeled any tougher, darker parts of the meat, including the yellow claw and the skin, and was left with a white chunk of meat ready to be tenderized. I then pounded the meat with a hammer to make it more supple before cutting it up into smaller cookable chunks. I then soaked the conch chunks for about 4 to 5 hours in salty water. At this point, I had a prepared conch that could be used in a ceviche recipe, for example, or deep fried, steamed, but in my case, I wanted to boil it in a curry with coconut milk and coconut rice. So for the curry, I fried some onions, green peppers, diced carrots, and some courgettes before adding the conch, and then finally adding that coconut curry gravy sauce. I left it to boil slowly on a low heat, which is important, really, to ensure that the conch is not too chewy and very tender. For the rice, it was boiled in water that I had previously soaked shredded fresh coconut in and then drained away to get that nice coconut rice flavour. For the plantains, I shallow fried sliced plantains in oil until they were caramelized and added them on the side. I highly recommend trying the conch curry or the stew if ever there is an opportunity. It has this very distinctive flavour and works really well with more fuller flavoured sauces. We reflect very fondly on our time in the San Blas. We felt so much more informed and enriched by our visit and gaining a better understanding of the local, friendly Guna people. So just a reminder to head over to Salty Scout, my Instagram account, for a visual insight into everything I've spoken about in today's episode, from the pictures of Nestor and his family, the baker Iselda and her Kuna bread, and the conch fisherman and my conch coconut curry dish. Thank you so much for coming on board Scout and learning a little bit about this remote part of the southern Caribbean called the San Blas, as well as the Guna people and the types of local foods they eat. Now though, as we start planning our passage to the Galapagos, we will also do some food preparation and have some pre-cooked meals ready to defrost, for example, from the freezer. In the coming days, when we return to Panama City from the tranquil Las Perlas, where we are right now, we will begin several large provisioning trips to markets and supermarkets to hopefully see us through the next 5 or so months, not including all of the fresh fruit and veggies, of course. So join me next time on Salty Scout as I rustle up another dish or describe another local food from another corner of the Caribbean. Take care. Bye-bye.